Hello, my name is Mohan Doss. I am a medical physicist at Fox Chase Cancer Center in the Diagnostic Imaging Department. The subject I am going to talk today about is correcting systemic deficiencies in our scientific infrastructure. It sounds like a complicated topic, but I'll try to explain it in simple terms to show why this is an important subject that we should deal with. We all benefit tremendously from science and scientific discoveries and inventions. The scientific method is an extremely powerful method because the way science works is we propose different hypotheses and we study the hypothesis to determine which are closest to the truth from the results of experiments that we perform to test the hypothesis. So even if we start with the wrong idea to start with, after we do these experiments and study the hypothesis, we'll come to the correct hypothesis finally. And therefore, this self-correcting nature of the scientific method makes it extremely powerful, because it doesn't matter if you started on the wrong path to start with, you will come back to the correct path. Now, to use the science and generate inventions and medical discoveries and so on, we have evolved a large scientific infrastructure in the world. This consists of the scientists that do the research, the funding agencies that provide the support, the journals that publish the findings, and then the popular media that popularize these findings to spread the information to the public. And also we have some advisory committees that are formed by top scientists to give us advice on these findings. So the question is, does this whole structure, all the scientific infrastructure, does it work well to follow the scientific method? Because that is the key to the strength of the scientific science and the scientific progress. Now, let me discuss what has happened in the case of low dose radiation health effects research. About in the 1950s, the scientists became concerned about the radiation and the effects of radiation, about the cancer effects of radiation, and they came up with a hypothesis saying that the smallest amount of radiation causes cancer. The model was called linear no threshold model, and it's called LNT model. And this hypothesis was used to protect the public and the workers from the potential harmful effects of low dose radiation. And they developed policies such as low as reasonably achievable, or it's called ALARA, which means you don't give any radiation to anybody unless it's necessary, and then do the least amount of radiation to the public and the workers. Now, so this was all based on a hypothesis that the smallest amount of radiation causes cancer. In 1980, Professor Lucky proposed a different hypothesis saying that small doses of radiation reduce the cancer incidence. And this was based on lots of animal studies and other studies. Now, when it was proposed, this hypothesis could not be studied because people are concerned about the low dose radiation, even though there was no evidence that low dose radiation causes cancer. So what we did, with the advice of the top advisory bodies in the field, is that we prevented the study of the radiation hormesis hypothesis because of the linear no threshold model hypothesis without any solid evidence for the linear no threshold model hypothesis. So, not studying the hypothesis actually blocks scientific progress. Now, because of this not studying all the hypotheses when they were proposed, we still don't have a definitive answer on what the health effects of low dose radiation are, and many scientists are still arguing about it. However, the evidence for the radiation hormesis hypothesis is becoming stronger with more and more evidence that has been published in the past several years. So, if radiation hormesis hypothesis is true, then it is quite likely that by using low dose radiation, we can reduce the cancers by something like 10% or more. And if that turns out to be true, the fact that we did not study the radiation hormesis hypothesis when it was proposed in the 1980s has likely led to millions of cancer deaths that could have been prevented using the low dose radiation. So, the harm done by not studying all the hypotheses when they are proposed is tremendously high. Now, this happened because our scientific infrastructure did not study the hypotheses when they were proposed. And there are additional elements in the scientific infrastructure that have also prevented the study of the hypothesis of radiation hormesis. For example, right now there is a lot of concern about low dose radiation, as for example, people may receive from CT scans. There are some publications that have claimed CT scans cause cancer based on the linear no threshold model. These publications get a huge amount of publicity in the popular media, in the newspapers and TV stations and so on. On the other hand, there are publications that have shown such doses of radiation do not cause cancer, and they don't get any publicity at all in the popular media. With the result, the ideas of the scientists as well as the public get skewed, and they tend to believe that low dose radiation causes cancer. Because of this fear of low dose radiation, we cannot study the radiation hormesis hypothesis even now. So, this is another part of the infrastructure, that is the lopsided publicity to sensational publications prevents studying all the different hypotheses that are proposed. So, what we need to do now, in my opinion, is that we need to look at all the different elements of the scientific infrastructure and find out how we can help to study all the hypotheses that are proposed before and then find out which hypothesis is the correct hypothesis, and only when we have a definitive evidence about the correctness of the hypothesis, we use that for applications of science in medicine. Then we will have the best health for the public. So that's my presentation.